Hi, and welcome to the summer 2020 transfer student orientation, the neuroscience major information session. My name is Dr. Rachel Penton, and I am the Director of Undergraduate Neuroscience Advising in the Department of Psychology and Neuroscience, and I will be taking you through these slides today. Our neuroscience major is a Bachelor's of Science degree. This is an interdisciplinary major, which means you do not only take classes within the psychology and neuroscience department, you will also take classes kind of throughout the university. And all of these classes together integrate to give you your neuroscience major. So the major is housed in our department and advising is provided by our department. But you will take classes also from the biology department, statistics, chemistry, computer science, physics, and math. All of this together allows students to examine behavior at a molecular and cellular level and prepares students for medical school, graduate school, or really any career related to STEM or any career that involves any sort of critical thinking skills or data analysis skills. This provides a really solid background in a broad variety of STEM topics because it is interdisciplinary. Neuroscience in general as a field is interdisciplinary, with kind of the origins of neuroscience arising from all of these different fields. Anatomists came to it studying the anatomy of the brain, and geneticists, came in and they were studying genetics of the neurons and, genetic disorders. Physiologists came in, they were already, looking at physiology of the cells, recording action potentials. Maybe they had started in the heart and now they've moved to the brain. Physicists, there's a broad variety of how neuroscience kind of arose as a field, which is why the major is so interdisciplinary, because really you do need all of the different sciences kind of woven together to give you the breadth of what neuroscience is, which means you are prepared for just about anything once you graduate. Here is a list of the neuroscience major requirements. These are updated as of, this will be the catalog year for 2020-2021. We have kind of two sets of requirements, as most majors have. We have a core set of requirements, we're here, and we have an additional set of requirements as well. Within our core set of requirements, kind of the base course of the major is something called NSci 175. And this is our Introduction to Neuroscience class. This ends up being a prerequisite for higher level neuroscience classes. However, it is not necessarily a prerequisite for all of the classes you would need in the neuroscience major. We also require a statistics course. We have listed here 3 different options for that required statistics course. A research methods course. Again, we have 3 different options right now for the required research methods course. One is research methods in psychology, and then the other 2 are very specialized neuroscience methods courses that allow students to do original research while learning research methods. We also require a class on learning, a class on sensation and perception. And then within our core requirements, we also have these 2 kind of buckets of electives that students can choose from. These 12 hours of electives that are part of the core requirements really allow students to tailor their neuroscience major to their interests. So you could take electives that are really focused on, chemistry and pharmacology. You could, and if that's something of interest, you could take electives that have a lot of computer science if you're really interested in computational. You could take electives that are skewed towards human behavior as well. So you could really kind of tailor this to your interests. There's also electives for neurological diseases as well. So you can really tailor the kind of these core requirements to your interests. We also have these additional requirements. As I had mentioned, there are requirements from all sorts of different departments. And you can see that you need a pretty solid base of biology, chemistry, comp sci, math, physics. Okay. Chemistry is the one that really takes up the most space here. And as transfer students, hopefully you've taken some of your chemistry before transferring to UNC. I would go ahead and pick up with your chemistry as soon as you get here to continue it, to make sure that you're able to get all of the chemistry in before you graduate. The other thing I want to note here, I'm going to move back to talking about those two sets of electives, is these are also from all of these different departments across campus. So you might take, 4 electives all within our department, or you might end up taking many electives in the math department or in the comp sci department or in the biology department. So that also allows you to really tailor things depending upon your interest as well. Due to the amount of chemistry that you take for this major, if you decide to declare a chemistry minor, you've already completed it once you've completed the requirements for the neuroscience major. Here are some example electives from our department. From those 2 pools of electives or 2 buckets of electives are knowledge electives, and then our mathematics, methods, and statistics electives, which you'll often hear me abbreviate as MMS electives. As I said, you can take electives in a lot of different departments, but I wanted to provide you with examples of a few that are within our department. And so here's a list of what's available this fall in these 2 pools of electives. We have a neuropsychopharmacology class, a functional neuroanatomy class, principles of brain circuits, neurobiology of aging, and cognitive neuroscience, and an addiction course that's this Psych 517 here. So all of these are knowledge electives available from our department this fall 2020. You can see here that the majority of them are going to require NSCI 175 to be able to take. So if you have not transferred in an equivalent course, then you're going to want to take NSCI 175 as soon as you can. So those are all listed as knowledge electives. There's a lot of other knowledge electives across campus. There's some in biology, there's some in chemistry, there's some in exercise and sports science, there's some in statistics and computer science and math, and anyway, just there's a lot of options, right? And you will see in the course catalog that will be updated, I think everyone should have it by June 1st, the list of available knowledge electives to choose from. That being said, so within our department, I've listed kind of these prereqs for these. Knowledge electives in other departments may have other prerequisites. And so if you find yourself interested in taking some of those, it would be good to have a look at what the prereqs are for those, because they may not actually be, the prereqs may not be classes that count towards the neuroscience major, but you may still need to take them to get into the class that is required for the neuroscience major. So if we move on to our mathematics, methods, and statistics electives, these again are just ones from our department that are available this fall. We have one here, it's called NSCI 276. This is Cellular Electrophysiology Laboratory. This was listed on a previous slide as also being able to count as a required methods course. It can count for either the required methods course or as one of these MMS electives. So this course, along with another course, the one that was listed as NSCI 278, are both CURE courses, and a CURE course is a class that's a course-based undergraduate research experience. There are a number of these courses across campus that allow students to gain research experience while in a classroom setting, and allow students to pursue original research and learn how to do research within the structured classroom setting. So we have developed 2 of these courses so far within the neuroscience major. The cellular electrophysiology laboratory is focused on techniques in electrophysiology, which is recording the electrical activity of neurons. This one, it's a cellular electrophysiology, so the focus is really on individual neurons. And there's a research project that goes along with it that studies taste receptors in fruit flies and how starvation might affect their responsiveness. The other cure class that we have in our department as a laboratory is molecular imaging of the brain, and it teaches students how to do immunohistochemistry and fluorescent imaging. So you can see where proteins are in the brain. They will fluoresce or glow under a fluorescent microscope. So students learn how to use those tools instead and study sex differences in expression of proteins in norepinephrine cells in mouse brain. So both of those are courses that are specific for the neuroscience major. You can see that the prereqs are the NSCI 175 and then one of the stats courses that are required for the major. The other mathematics, methods, and stats elective that we have available this fall within our department is something called Neurotechnology and Modern Neuroscience Research. This course basically teaches about how these new methods in modern neuroscience research are being used to collect data. I know students actually analyze big data sets that are freely available to pull out information. So basically you still do research, you're just doing it on widely freely available data sets. So those are both within our department. We have a few others that are also available. And then there are a ton of math, methods, and stats electives that are throughout the university. As you can imagine, there's a lot of math classes that can count towards these, as well as statistics courses that can count towards these. But there's also classes from other departments that can count towards these as well. Recommendations for y'all as transfer students. So when you're transferring into UNC, we do try to reserve specific seats for transfer students in some of our classes in the department. For this upcoming fall, we reserved 24 seats for transfer students. Hopefully you have already registered for those seats, because I know that they have, as far as I can tell, they have filled. So at least 24 of y'all have seats in the fall NSCI 175 class. This is our Introduction to Neuroscience class. If you're not able to get it in your first semester, please do try to get it in the second semester that you're at UNC. This class, we have a lot of seats available this fall, so hopefully there were enough seats for everybody to get registered. As of today is May 11th, when I'm recording this, there were a few seats left in one of the sections that are not necessarily reserved for transfer students, but are available. And that's the NSCI 175-003 section. This course I would suggest, if you like trying to get it this first semester that you arrive at UNC, as it will be the prereq for many of the advanced neuroscience classes. If you've transferred in an equivalent, then you've already kind of taken care of that. Another class I would suggest looking into is Psych 270. This is also an option for our required research methods class. As long as you've had a Psych 101 before, then you can enroll in Psych 270. I think there's usually reserved seats for transfer students for that course as well. A note about Comp 116, this comes up just all the time. This is a frequent question that we get. Comp 116, our Comp 110 that's offered at UNC, and maybe you've transferred in something that's equivalent to Comp 110, that cannot substitute for Comp 116 in our major. But if you already have Comp 110 credit and you really like Comp Sci, then you can go ahead and take the more advanced Comp Sci course, 401, although I think they're changing their numbers a little bit. We just haven't been given the exact numbers quite yet. But whatever was Comp 401, you could take that instead, and we can make that count for the Comp 116. The reason that we specifically want students to take Comp 116 instead of Comp 110 is because in neuroscience and science in general, but especially in neuroscience, the programming languages used are like Python and MATLAB. And you're specifically taught Python in Comp 116, so it better prepares you for science. And a note down here, the last one down here is our NSci 222 and 225. There are also reserved seats for transfer students, so hopefully you've enrolled in one of those or both of them if you can get them. Because it's easier to get a seat in a class when you're coming in for your first semester at UNC and you're a transfer student, because we do have these reserved seats. And it can be a little harder later on when you're registering based on terms and residence. Otherwise, if you were unable to get a seat, take these classes when you can. It does tend to be easier in our department to take classes. Like, it gets easier the further along you are at UNC because of the way registration works. You'll notice here I have a Hunger Games meme. So happy class registration. May the odds be ever in your favor. Registration is known to be somewhat difficult at UNC. Simply, there are so many students and everybody seems to want all of the same classes. And the way registration has been set up is that you enroll based on terms and residence. And so whoever's been here longest registers first, and then it kind of, goes down from that. And in many big departments, and our department is considered kind of a big department, we have a lot of majors that all require the same classes. And what this means is that seniors and juniors will get enrolled before others. And as transfer students, the conversion from like your transfer credits to what terms and residence you have can make things a little bit more complicated for you, unfortunately. So do try to get classes where there are reserved seats for you for this upcoming semester. That would be my biggest thing there. The other thing, I had mentioned this previously, but make sure that you're keeping up on your chem classes if you haven't already taken the ones that are required for the major. I know many people actually transfer in through organic or organic 2. And so you may have already taken care of those. But if you haven't, make sure you get into those classes so that you can, finish them and not have them kind of hanging over you later. A note about our department. So individual instructors, so faculty in the department, including myself, cannot actually enroll students in our classes. We can't make wait lists. We can't hold seats. We can't do anything about registration. That's part of our departmental policies. So reaching out to us individually when you see a class is full doesn't actually help. Like, you may hear back from us that we can't hold seats, or we may have advice about what to do. I'm going to provide you with that advice shortly. But please know that individual instructors within the Department of Psychology and Neuroscience actually can't do anything about your registration. And so for us, really the only way to register is for y'all to go through Connect Carolina to register. So when students reach out to me, I teach NSci 175 and then some advanced classes. And NSci 175 is a popular course and tends to fill. So I have a lot of students that reach out to me about wanting me to somehow get them into the class. And my advice for those students, and this is going to apply kind of across the board for your classes within our department, is that you keep track of the courses on Connect Carolina, especially through the summer. There is a lot of adding and dropping and moving things around as students kind of shift around their schedules to get it to where they want it to be. Students will often, like, we advise this too, you just get enrolled in as many classes as you can take up front, especially if you're a student that maybe had a later registration date and time. And then as people are adding and dropping other classes, then you end up adding and dropping your classes until you end up with a schedule you're mostly happy with. So there does tend to be a lot of shifting over the summer as people are adding and dropping and trying to make their schedule work better for them. This is especially what happens in larger classes. So there's a lot more movement in large classes than there is in smaller classes. So you can kind of look on Connect Carolina and add yourself if you see something opening. You can use Courseicle to kind of track when open seats are, and it will send you notifications. So this is an app you can install on your phone, and it'll basically send you push notifications when a seat opens up. Of note, our department does have seat restrictions. As neuroscience majors, you are included within those seat restrictions, meaning that you should be able to enroll in classes when there's an open seat, because you're within the group that is having these reserved seats for you. If you are not a declared neuroscience major and you do want to take these classes in our department, you should go ahead and declare your neuroscience major, because the majority of our seats are restricted to declared majors within the department. A note about wait lists. For many classes, the wait lists are already full, and perhaps you're already on wait lists. The wait list students from the wait list will get moved into the courses as long as the students kind of meet the restrictions of the course, the seat restrictions. The last date to add yourself to a wait list, I think, is August 2nd. Which means that after August 2nd, even if there are spots on the wait list that open up, you cannot get onto the wait list anymore. So it's really important during the summer, if you're trying to get into a class or onto the wait list for a class, to do that before August 2nd. Because after that, no more students won't be able to add themselves to the wait list. They're kind of frozen. Within our department, within this major, we really encourage students to seek out research opportunities. There's a number of ways that students can do this. You can reach out to faculty and their labs to volunteer as a research assistant. And doing this, what we usually suggest is that you go through our department page, our listing of faculty. I would also suggest for neuroscience majors that you go look at the Neuroscience Center list of faculty, as well as what's called the BBSP list of faculty. That BBSP is our kind of umbrella graduate program for all biomedical PhD students as they're coming in. And so faculty that are listed there, many of them do neuroscience research. So seek out, read through these listings of faculty, see what their research is, dig into it a bit more, maybe read some papers from the lab. Make sure you look on their lab website about how they would like undergraduates to contact them. Sometimes they want students to email. Other times they really want undergraduates to fill out a Qualtrics form or a Google form so that they have some information kind of coming in, and that way everything's kind of kept together as opposed to a bunch of emails. So make sure you pay attention to how they've requested that students reach out to them. And then you can reach out to those labs that you're really interested in, provide them information about yourself, why you're interested in the research. Since you hopefully will have read some of the papers, you can talk a little bit about like how their research interests match your interest, and maybe ask questions about what they're doing. Provide any background you have, any previous research experience that you have or not, any courses that might be related that could help you out in research, and just overall be willing to contact many faculty because you may hear back from some and not others. I usually suggest if you haven't heard back within a week that you send just another email, just an update reminder email. Oftentimes emails we get backlogged with emails, unfortunately. So I would suggest after 1 week to follow up. So that's a way to find a lab. You can work in that lab as a volunteer research assistant. You can get course credit for working in a lab as well. The course that students take to get course credit is something called NSci 395 for the neuroscience major. And what this does is it kind of formalizes the process and allows you to get course credit for work in the lab. In order to take an NSci 395 class with a faculty member in their lab, you need to establish a relationship with that faculty member, make sure they're willing to act as an NSci 395 faculty mentor for you, and then you need to have taken NSci 175 and 2 other STEM courses. Those 2 other courses do not have to be NSci courses. If you have NSci 175 and you have Chem 101 and you have Bio 202, then you're good to go on that. One of these 2 other STEM courses does need to be 200 level or above. But that could be a math class, a stats class, chemistry class, physics class, biology class, right? So any of the STEM courses, or psychology class, neuroscience class, it doesn't really matter. You just need 2 other, and then NSci 175, and you need to have at least a 3.0 GPA. So that's a way to get course credit for working in the lab. For every 3 hours in the lab, you would get 1 course credit. So, and then you can earn up to 3 hours of course credit per semester. And that 3 hours, only 3 hours of NSci 395 will count towards your major, and it does count as a mathematics, methods, and statistics elective for you. But that's a way to both get course credit that counts towards your major and be able to do research as well. We also offer a senior honors thesis in our department. With the senior honors thesis, usually you do this in a lab that you've already worked in before. You have your own independent project and you are working on this project for a year while writing it up as well. You take 2 courses as part of the senior honors thesis to kind of prepare you and help you to write up your thesis. And we kind of expect that these theses will be published. Okay. To do a senior honors thesis, you need to have taken either NSci 395 previously or had equivalent experience. If you've worked in a lab for a semester, right, and you've been doing 9 hours a week in that lab, then that's equivalent experience to taking NSci 395. You just may not have gotten course credit for it. So you need to have had prior research experience, and you need to apply in the spring of your junior year in order to do the senior honors thesis during your senior year. It also requires a 3.3 GPA as a minimum. And then this last opportunity here that's listed is an internship. So it's the Karen M. Gill internship. This is such a great opportunity for our students. You not only get course credit for doing this internship, you also get paid. And then you get to get experience kind of out in the community, kind of surrounding UNC. There's a lot of places that students intern within Research Triangle Park. And you could do neuroscience research experience or work in, some sort of medical office setting. There's just a lot of opportunities in there for students. So students can apply for this. You'll need to be a junior or a senior. Students need to have a 3.4 GPA minimum. For neuroscience, you need to have NSci 175, and then you need 2 additional courses within our department. And I highly urge students to apply for this as well, because it's just such a great opportunity. So these are research opportunities available to you. We really encourage you to seek these out. and know that these experiences help you grow in a lot of ways as well. You'll also have the opportunity to do study abroad at UNC. Within our department, about 50% of students study abroad. There's probably more psych students than NSCI majors currently. We're working to increase that by seeking out specific programs that are offered kind of throughout the world that would be good fits for neuroscience majors, so that maybe you can get some major credit while you're abroad. We also have faculty-led programs that go abroad. A faculty-led program is one where a UNC faculty member develops a class to teach abroad. We have one neuroscience one that I've developed since I've been here, and it is a neuropharmacology class in Australia, or neuropharmacology kind of experience in Australia. And students, when they do these study abroad faculty-led trips, there are a number of excursions that are rolled into the class that allow students to kind of see the country and see this topic kind of embedded in that country, and how it may be different from the States. So these are just great experiences. Many students do this as like a summer. You don't necessarily have to go for a full semester or a year. You can do a summer study abroad instead. And these are really, really high impact like experiences for students. And I highly suggest looking into it. Other ways to get involved in neuroscience at UNC or in the Triangle area include our Carolina Neuroscience Club at UNC. This club has a pretty active set of students. They meet weekly and kind of talk all things neuroscience. Sometimes they have guest speakers come in to talk about research. Sometimes they're discussing kind of the latest research that's been coming out about neuroscience. But they're definitely a very active group, and they do meet weekly. You can get more information about them at this web link. It's https://heallife.unc.edu/organization/Carolina Neuroscience. Another thing I wanted to point out to you is the premier undergraduate neuroscience journal. It's called Impulse. And so this journal is specialized in publishing undergraduate neuroscience research. Dr. Kelly Giovanello is going to be the faculty advisor for it. I think it has transferred over to UNC as the host institution as of this upcoming year. So there will be opportunities for students to become editors of this journal, to provide peer review services, and basically get to be actively involved in research in this way, in this aspect of research, in the peer review and the publishing. Another organization I would suggest that students look into is the Triangle chapter of Society for Neuroscience. So Society for Neuroscience is the really large neuroscience organization. So kind of that's our professional organization for this field. And we do have a chapter locally. You can visit their website at https://trianglesfnchapter.org. Student memberships are relatively inexpensive. There's a meeting once a year. Undergrads can submit posters for the meeting and present their research at the meeting. There's ways for you to learn more about policy and science communication and outreach through this chapter of Society for Neuroscience. It's definitely something I was just getting involved in as a neuroscience major. So if you have questions about the major, questions about research, getting involved in research, getting involved in neuroscience at UNC or in the area, you can contact several of us in the department to help answer your questions or help provide advice. So I am Dr. Rachel Penton. I am Director of Undergraduate Neuroscience Advising. You can see my email there. You can email me. During the academic year, I have advising appointments. Over the summer, I don't keep that calendar open necessarily, but I am available via email to answer any questions you have. I may ask to set up a phone call if I think it might be easier to kind of help you out as you're trying to kind of get settled in at UNC. There's also Dr. Kelly Giovanello. She is the Director of Undergraduate Neuroscience Curricula. And she is such a great resource and can provide you with any advising help you may need for the major as well. I also want to give you Dr. Sabrina Robertson's name. So while I am director of the advising, she is the director of like the undergrad neuroscience research part of it. So I really my specialty is really figuring out your courses and getting you to graduation. And she is really just this wealth of knowledge about undergraduate neuroscience research, not only at UNC, but also in the Triangle area. And she has many, many connections. And she is the person that I would absolutely suggest you talk to if you have questions about finding a lab or NSci 395. She's the person kind of in charge of our NSci 395 courses. So I can't recommend you reaching out to her enough. So that's Dr. Sabrina Robertson. She's our Director of Undergraduate Neuroscience Research. You can see her email is there as well. Our departmental website is just full of information, and it is psychology.unc.edu. If you visit our website, which is psychology.unc.edu, you'll find this landing page. If you'd like to look for faculty that you could work with for research, you go to people and then core faculty, and this will give you a list of all of our faculty and includes what their research interests are and oftentimes links to their lab websites. Under people, you'll also find administration. Under administration, you can find people that work in administration. You can also find those of us that provide advising as well. So if you're wondering where my email is, or Dr. Robertson's or Dr. Giovanello's, we're all listed under administration as well. So just a heads up there for people. If you go to undergraduate studies, you can see that you can go to major requirements, minor requirements, courses, advising, and information about our honors thesis, the Gill internship, how to do research as an undergraduate, and study abroad. If we go to major requirements, you will find information about all of the majors in our department. So the BS in neuroscience is listed second here, and this also lists the requirements. If you go instead to courses under here, what I want to show you is that we usually have a PDF of what we're actually offering in the department. So in the course catalog, what you'll see is all courses that we offer. However, we don't necessarily offer them every single semester. If you go to undergraduate studies courses, you will find our course offerings for the upcoming semester. There's also information about registration located here. And if you scroll down to the bottom, the thing I really wanted to show you here is that we have a list of courses and example syllabi, so that you can have a look at what courses are like in our department. You can see some of them, they're all listed here as psych courses. Many of these are now NSci courses. So Psych 175 is what NSci 175 used to be called. So if you were to go to this, you'd be able to see an example syllabus from several years ago that pertains to that course, just so you can get a feel for the courses. The other thing I want to point out to you here, if you go to academic advising, you will find your academic advisors. So there's myself, Dr. Giovanello. If you're also a psychology major, then advisors for the psychology major. So you can find our contact info there as well. You can see info about the clubs, and the honors program, this is the honors thesis. You can find more information about the Karen Gill internship program and research, which this will give you information about NSI 395 that I had spoken about. And then down here, there's information about study abroad. Okay. So I just wanted to point out that you can get further information on any of the things we've talked about during this slide deck by going to our website, which is psychology.unc.edu. I'd like to welcome you to UNC, and I hope that I will get to see you in some classes upcoming, either in the fall or in future semesters. Welcome.